territory and suddenly flip.
Good evening, Neonates. JB Illusion here, checking out the E3 extended trailer for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. I'm expecting a lot on story. I'm kind of interested to see how the gameplay works out. It is pre-alpha, so things are subject to change, but let's check it out, ladies and gentlemen.
I guess I have to be the one to tell you.
About what? Oh, that's against the Masquerade.
You're dead.
Thanks for telling us. Oh. We healed.
City. We're all fighting over scraps here.
Okay.
I've seen it raised by fire, shaken by quakes.
Whatever you do in my city, I will hear about it.
Your city.
Is firmly under my control.
Is that the Ventru?
Obviously new to this whole existence, but truth is, most of you types won't even make it a whole year.
Thin Bloods.
So you probably figured out that you need to drink.
Yo!
You can't just do whatever you want. Cities are carved up by political factions.
Whoa.
Never tell anyone about what you are. See, vampires are extremely territorial. Unwittingly poach in someone's territory and suddenly flip. We have one rule.
He's one of the guys from the trailer.
Break the masquerade.
He's one of the guys from some of the promotional art. Yo! Okay. Yo, the combat is nuts. Okay. So we see a little bit of the Thin Blood disciplines.
To the first day of the rest of your death. Having fun yet?
We're gonna fight that Bruja. Like. Okay. This is a nice place. Oh, we got text. Making allies. Alright.
Happy to see you accepted my
Atrium.
All I need you to do is to find a Thin Blood by the name of Slug. He's in hiding. But the Nosferatu most likely know where he is. Once you find Slug, all you have to do is purchase some information off of him. Feel free to use whatever methods are needed to get him to comply.
Whatever methods? Alright. And he's chilling out with...
Handlers have sent you to find our smelly friend.
So he's chilling with the Nosferatu.
Freeway in a place the locals call the jungle. He's smart enough to hide among the homeless down there, but not quite smart enough to do it well.
Okay, so this is the guy.
Coming to see us, and no one needs to know. I'll let you keep anything you've been promised from whoever sent you to me.
Really?
You'll want to watch yourself. Lots of unsavory animals in the jungle.
There's Slug.
I don't know you. That's a good start.
Why is that?
He's a coward, but he survived this long on his own, so he's bound to be a handful.
Yo, I'm loving the chase. So we're hunting this guy through the sewers, and there was mention of Nosferatu, so there... Whoa!
He's also not the only one you'll need to look out for.
Okay. I'm digging the fighting. It's definitely a lot of Thin Blood. Whoa! Nice! No. Yep. Execution. Okay. There's Slug.
Whatever methods are needed to get him to comply.
We'll let you keep anything you've been promised.
Just let me go.
Come on.
Come on. Just let me leave.
Let him go. Whoa, wait. Coercion? Negotiation? Okay, there you go. Coerce. Now, who is this? We just got staked. By who? He was in a suit. Was that Ventru? Or could that have been Society of Leopold? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I need to talk about so many things that happened in this. Oh, this is amazing. What's good, ladies and gentlemen? We just watched the E3 extended trailer for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and there were quite a few things I found intriguing. But first and foremost, let's start off with what seemed to be a bit of a vampire attack. At the beginning, we see some vampires just like drop down, do the superhero drop, and kind of accost some people. It was cut off very quickly, but then we get shown the Malkavian that we've seen quite a bit of on the promotional art, who informs us that we are now among the unliving, as he pulls the stake out of our chest. Really nice guy. Later on, towards the end of the trailer, we do see how we got stake to begin with, and I think that gentleman may have been definitely a part of Kindred Society. I don't think he might be Society of Leopold. And then I guess we were brought to this Malkavian. I don't believe that he's the prince of the city. There's another gentleman who happens to have a shaved head who I believe might actually be the prince of the sea. I'm not entirely sure. We can get into a bit of the different factions a little bit later on as we talk about some things. But after that, the number one thing that's on my mind is, well, getting punched clear across a room, well, actually through a door into a room from the hallway by a Bruja. Not just any Bruja, the one that we saw on the actual website who was representing the Bruja. So we are going to have some boss battles with the characters that showed up on the promotional website. I'm really excited about that because I don't know, there's just something about boss fights that I love, especially against other kindred. Like in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1, we had a couple of them, but I'm just incredibly excited to see how they play out. Now, are these people going to be targets for us to possibly Diablerize? I'm not entirely sure. I'll get to that maybe a little bit later as well. It just looked awesome. And we also happen to have the representative of the Malkavians who's on the website as well. If you want to go check out the vampire, I think it's called bloodlines2.com. Check it out for the Malkavians. She looks to be very artsy. She's in I'm assuming an abandoned warehouse, and she's got like the lights on her, and she's voguing and she's posing. And then towards another point in the trailer, we see like multiple copies of her. I don't know if she used Dementation to bring us into like a shared delusion or just make us go crazy. I know on the website there were some mannequins in the background. Did she dress up these mannequins? Does she talk to these mannequins? Are these mannequins like other bits and pieces of herself? And are we now seeing that and they're attacking us and we have to fight back? I don't know. I just love the idea of a Malkavian boss fight so much. Now, these guys, I don't necessarily believe that they're going to be, you know, like the end all be all for us. They're definitely going to be people higher on the tier for us to do battle with. But I'm at least happy that it seems that we are going to have some friends going into the cold nights of the world of darkness. Of course, there's the Malkavian that I mentioned before who kind of at least helped us out. He was nice enough to pull the stake out of our chest. And then there's the guy from the initial Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 trailer. Kind of had the Spike Spiegel haircut going on. He was living in an apartment, passed us some blood, really nice guy. And he was kind of breaking down the world of darkness for us. And he was telling us that there are factions that vampires are highly territorial, and there's only one rule to not break, and that would be that of the Masquerade. Everything else is pretty cool. We also learned that we have another ally. I wrote this down because it was a message that appeared right before we went into either our apartment or Spike Spiegel's apartment, and it reads, Penny, message. Hey boss, we're someone's boss? What? Is this possibly our ghoul? Or are we in charge of them at this point? I don't know, but hey boss, got a message from the factions. They are at the bar, the coffee shop, the club, and the parking garage. So we're going to have 4 factions going into Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. 1 at the bar, 1 at the coffee shop, 1 at the parking garage, and 1 at a club that we do actually get to see in the trailer. The club is called Atrium. Now, we run into a woman who I do believe is a Tremere. Now, what her affiliation is she, what house? Is she a Karna? I do believe that she's a coroner. She just has like that vibe to her, who essentially sends us on a quest to go talk to a thin blood. She did say that he was a thin blood, but we'll get into his looks a little bit later. A thin blood by the name of Slug. He's got some info, and we're to get it out of him using whatever means necessary, ladies and gentlemen. We hit the Seattle Underground, which apparently is called the Jungle. It's kind of, I guess, the version of the sewers for this game that I think is really intriguing. There's going to be some gangs down there. There's going to be enemies as we hunt down Slug. So the chase was beautiful and showed off a lot of vampiric abilities. We got to see quite a few abilities used. So on the Thin Blood side, we got to see Chiropteran. The movement power glide wasn't used in the jungle, but we saw it a little bit earlier than that. We also saw Swarm. We've seen Swarm a couple different times. It is pretty awesome. But what I found very intriguing was the use of mentalism. As we're chasing down Slug, as we're hunting him down, he slams a door and we need to open it. So we pull towards us a shotgun, and I'm assuming we then use said shotgun to open the door quite brutally, but it was very intriguing. We also get to see a little bit of the fighting down in the sewer area, the jungle. It was pretty intriguing. We got to see some flips going down, which I didn't think I'd be seeing that. Some flips. We get to see like an execution style attack. We definitely get to see a little bit more of the disciplines being used. I don't think we saw any of Nebulation, which is kind of like the sneaky side of the Thin Blood disciplines, but I was impressed by what we saw, and the combat does look very visceral. So getting into the abilities, getting into the powers, we saw something that was also quite intriguing from the start of, I guess, us realizing that we are now among the undead. We start seeing people as like hearts. We can see their heart, we can see their veins beating to indicate that they are fleshy creatures of blood and flesh, so that we can feed off of them. And at first we see just a lot of gray, a lot of black, like, okay, this person has blood in them. But then we see a couple, I assume special individuals, one who happened to have red flowing through his veins, and another one who is yellow. Now, I'm pretty sure that these colors are going to play into our powers, our abilities. Are we going to get certain buffs or certain debuffs depending on how much of red or yellow that we have in our blood? It does seem that red and yellow, or at least the colors, are going to be a little sparse. We might not be seeing too much of that. There's different types, acute and some other stuff in Vampire the Masquerade that we could talk about, but that's a lot to take in right now. I do find the idea of maybe focusing down on only feeding from a couple people for red. Maybe red just has something to do with, I don't know, potence. So we kind of gravitate more towards people of the red variety when we are feeding off of people. And maybe we're going to have the ability to, through dialogue options and maybe through certain missions, convince people to adopt that red, I guess you'd say, blood type, so that we can then feed off of them more easily and replenish ourselves. Now, once we get to our boy Slug, it's interesting to have him referred to as a thin blood. The guy looks pretty deep into that Nosferatu-like style. We do see another guy who does get introduced to us, who kind of reminds me of a Nosferatu as well, but not as much as Slug. What do you guys think about that? Hit me up in the comments down below, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think that Slug may or may not know a way to move himself up into a particular clan? Because he was referred to as a thin blood, but my man looks like a solid Nosferatu. Maybe some other things happened. He was the result of some experiments, or maybe just life in the jungle was hitting him particularly hard. Just maybe. So I think that's about it for me. I'm looking through my notes. Yes, I actually wrote notes on this, ladies and gentlemen. I do find Penny to be very interesting. Maybe we'll actually be able to give the embrace to Penny if she is a ghoul, or maybe we're at some point in time going to be in charge of whatever faction we wind up joining. We've saw a little bit of the club faction, the Atrium faction, and I do believe a Trebir. So we also have the bar, the coffee shop, and the parking garage. The parking garage may be of Anarch interest, or maybe the bar could also be of Anarch interest. The coffee shop, not entirely sure. Tell me what you guys think of the trailer, just in its entirety down below. Thank you all for watching. Please be excellent to each other. And, as always, good evening, neonates.